Welcome, everyone, to Enlightened Masculinity podcast, where nothing is taboo, nothing is forbidden, all is permitted, everything is possible. I'm one of your hosts, Yogi Chris, PhD, founder of Ninth Limb Yoga, author of many books, host of many podcasts. I travel the world teaching yoga, and I also have the PhD in the human universities. That was a fun endeavor. And I'm joined, of course, by my co-host, Akash Inti. We'll get into that in just a second. Keep in mind, these are our opinions. We are giving our perspectives on something that we have studied, that we have experience with, and that we continue to research and practice. You know, this isn't just like we've reached the pinnacle and then we're telling you what the view is like from the top of the mountain. We're climbing with you. And if you're listening to us, maybe we're just a few steps ahead, or maybe we're just a few steps to the side in an adjacent path or something like that. Just think of it like that. So I'm joined by Akash Inti from Montclair, New Jersey. He's a biotech research analyst for some of the top drug companies in the world. And he's also a registered yoga teacher, starting his yoga tribe there in Montclair, New Jersey. So that's exciting. Anybody from Montclair, New Jersey, I definitely recommend reaching out to Akash, because one of the things I know about Akash is his ability to communicate and his mindset due to our studying under the same common teachers, which puts him definitely, me knowing, being in communication with 1,200 yoga studios across the country, that Akash Inti knows what he's talking about when it comes to mindset communication. So if you're in the area, definitely reach out to him, and I'm joined by him. He hasn't slept for 24 hours, so I'm told. And we were just talking before this podcast about where we're going to go with it. And I really was excited about kind of where we left off yesterday. Akash, maybe the way you said it was so good. Maybe you could remind me where we left off yesterday.
Yeah, sure, brother. Thank you, as always, for the illustrious introduction. I mean, every time you introduce me, I feel like I'm a rock star over here. I want to give a quick shout out to the artist FKA Yacht, a good friend of mine from college, and he is currently exploring the cities of the United States. In regards to today's topic, so before we start, first off, if you like this content, subscribe, give us a review. Would be incredible to be able to share this content with others who find this valuable, and you guys would be our best way of continuing to spread this message. Number two, been putting out some content on YouTube, primarily around communication, yoga, as well as just general mindset and such. So if you're interested in this type of content, check it out. The name is Akash Inti. And then lastly, also join our private group if you're interested in any content. We'll continually be putting out some new content every week. So now that we have all of the administrative things out of the way, one of the things that we had talked about at the beginning of yesterday's podcast was the concept of failing in front of others, and being a teacher and failing in front of others. I think that's a particular sore spot for a lot of people. You know, like when you see a teacher, you assume like, oh, this is the teacher. They're always going to get it right no matter what the situation is, blah, 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 blah. But it's the teachers, from what I've found and what I continue to experience, is the teacher is simply the person who's walked the path before you. And that doesn't mean that they still won't slip up. I mean, a master is someone who's failed so many more times than anyone else, than the student has even begun. And so they get an understanding of what are the common paths and pitfalls of failure. But on the same token, they're not necessarily always going to hit every single little thing. So there's always continual practice and such. So Yogi Chris, I was curious of what's your experience like being a teacher, and have you ever had any experiences where you've like quote unquote failed, as one might call it? What were these experiences like? And maybe we delve into this. And this could be anything from social yoga to in the studio itself to the silent flute to even when you were in university teaching undergrads. So,
Man, there's so many, of course, so many examples, and you know, just even little micro. I don't even know if I use the word failure for these things. Just like maybe lack of discipline or not following through with maybe some of the advice that I give. You know, I'm a big believer in the phrase or the kind of colloquial statement of we teach what we most need to learn, or we teach what we most need to practice, or we teach what we most need to study. Like there's a reason why I'm teaching the things I teach, is because I needed these things and I continue to need these things in my personal development, and eventually I leave some things behind and so on. Like for example, Sal Castillo, he commented about the progressions into a social experience. I still use those sometimes, but I'm also kind of graduated into the next, but it's still progression. It's just progression into everything that I want to achieve. It's not like a big leap. It's like when you go to kiss the girl, don't go for the big move. It's not a big move. Did you even hold her hand first? Did you even brush her hair first? Did you even whisper in her ear before you tried to kiss her? Have you hugged? Like all these little progressions that are before, just did you guide her around the venue? Did you tell her to follow you and she followed? Like before you go for the kiss, before you go for the handstand, there's a lot of little progressions that happen before then so you don't hurt yourself because you might fall. I fall out of handstands and I'm pretty good at them, but I still fall out of them every once in a while. But I never get hurt because I know all the progressions, and I included in that is the progressions of how to fall, progressions of how to get out of the situation, transition into the next. So, but I slip up on some of the things that I give people advice on, and I tell them that also that's possible. I'm practicing, and maybe I'm just better at it than them. Yesterday, what I was talking about was definitely failing in front of my girlfriend in a social yoga practice. So I have the best relationship I've ever had, and it continues to grow, and we work at it. It takes work. It's surprising how much work it takes, but if it's worth it, it's worth it. And so it's a kind of relationship where I will take her out with me. She knows I'm with other women. She knows that I practice pickup. But then there's also, I have in my mind that when I'm out with my girl, the senior concern of mine, besides next to obviously like our safety, is maintaining or generating her attraction for me. And so I'm not willing, there's an unwillingness for me, and I'm not saying I'm perfect at this, and I'm not even saying this is right, but I'm saying that I'm less willing to compromise her attraction for me for the sake of approaching that girl or this set or those guys and girls or whatever. Like you could say I'm less willing to take those risks because the social, how impotent and how impotent, impotent. Oh, that's where that word, I would just kind of combine the words potent and important, and it became impotent. That's so interesting. I wonder if there's something going on with those words there. Anyway, it's so potent and important. Social proof and pre-selection, which is the social proof of other women. That's what pre-selection is. It's so important to have that pre-selection and social proof to your woman for her to feel the next level of attraction for you. You can always generate some level of attraction. Go ahead. You got something?
Yeah, maybe you explain what social proof is to some of our listeners who may not be so familiar with the terminology.
Yeah, and it's amazing. I think a lot of people they get it from the statement, because I was just talking with the yoga studio owner the other day, and I was talking about go ahead and invite a bunch of people to the Facebook event so that when I start promoting it on Facebook and, money with ads, that there is some social proof already there, and she immediately gets it. So that's what it is. It's social approval. It's the approval or the admiration or the respect or appreciation or whatever, positive feedback from the people in the social environment about you, what you're doing, your behavior. That would be proof that what you're doing is a winning strategy. If you were to look at just the social matrix as a bunch of strategies, like some people, they complain to get what they want. Some people yell to get what they want. Some people demand to get what they want. Some people seduce to get what they want. Some people negotiate, all these are just strategies to get what you want out of life is your social strategy. And so social proof would be proof that your social strategy is working based on the positive effect and the positive feedback from those around you. Okay, so yeah, social proof and pre-selection, which is the social proof basically of other women, that other women are demonstrating or displaying attraction to you. They're displaying indications of interest. They're indicating that they're interested in you is a very key and very powerful and potent ingredient to your woman being attracted to you, staying attracted to you, getting to the next level of attraction for you. But then the opposite is also true. When women reject you, that's a deleterious effect. It's a deleterious impact. I don't want to approach a group of women and they turn around and walk away and I'm left standing there. So then there's techniques for this, how to lean back, look over the shoulder, lean away, smile, do it in such a way that if they do withdraw their attention, that it's not so obvious that they were withdrawing it from you, that you have protected yourself from the social harm of that potential rejection, whatever, we could get into if that's a rejection or not, but from their, not being open to your approaching them. And so I'm flirting with this balance because I've not been in this situation before. Having such a good girlfriend that I'm totally open about everything. I mean, I already was, but now I'm taking her out and being open about everything, telling her, what am I doing? How is this happening? Going and demonstrating it in front of her. And there's that fear of failure. So combining those two topics that you brought up, the fear of failure in front of my girl, and that's something that I'm going to be attacking in the next week or two. And in the next, really the next 4 weeks I see, because there's a lot of events going up with her in my life. Really attacking that, both in my personal practice. I'm so much more willing to be rejected. I'm so much more willing to see failure in my own social dynamics practice when she's not around looking at me. Even in front of other guys, I'm okay with my guy friends looking at it. But there's something about, like, I want to maintain a sense of, elevated, like I want her to put me on a pedestal, basically, kind of thing. But then this flip side of the coin, before I hand it back over to you, is in the teacher, what I look for a lot of times, and this is a teaching from AZD, my teacher now, is we look for how do they respond to failure? How do they respond to the negative outcomes, or to the trials of life? How do they respond to it not going their way? It's in that response that you see who they really are, because it's relatively easy to respond pleasantly to the world when you're getting what you want. That's not that difficult. I think most people can handle that. It's when you don't get what you want, how do you respond? And that's a true indication of your mindset. So I think that probably I have some like fear about my deeper mindset about how do I handle, people disapproving of my approaches when my woman is around looking at me doing it. And so that's something that I'll be handling. So that's kind of like an update on where I am with my practice. And that's kind of what I was alluding to at the end of the podcast yesterday about failing in front of her when I'm in my social practice. So do you have any thoughts on these sorts of things?
Yeah, a couple things came up actually as you had noted this. Yesterday, while I was out, so I spent quite a bit of time out last night as well. I was doing some apprentice work at the bar because I wanted to be in the social environment, and I was like, you can't take me out of the nightlife. Like, it doesn't matter. I don't care what you're gonna do, even if I have to get shit done. So I was doing some work there, and I went to a bar. I had my like computer on me and everything like that, and I was working on my why. Because I'm working on my website, designing my website right now, and I'm like, okay, well, what's the purpose of this whole website? It's the blah blah blah. And one of the things that I had a learning about, I think this was from Simon Sinek, is his whole book is like start with why, find your why. The proper way to order um, uh, like a pitch in general is you start with why, then you go into the what, and then you go into the how at a high level. So I was like, okay, what's the why? And I was walking around the bar, dressed as I normally am, just in very eclectic clothing, with a notebook out and taking notes. And I was at the end of the night, I see people like moving around and such, and I was making the observations of who were the guys who were quote unquote successful in the sense of bringing women home versus the guys who weren't. What were the traits that they were displaying, like in the sense of how are they moving their body, how is their communication going outwards, how are the women responding to them, and what were the women doing in order to show that they were positively responding to it, and how are they responding to the guys who weren't successful. And I recall throughout the experience of the night itself that there was times where I was failing, if you will. So I went into open a couple what we call sets in pickup, or just groups of people, and started talking to them, groups of women really, started talking to them and had some I don't know, some flair to the conversation. It was playful. It was very spontaneous, and using a lot of Vince's techniques in the sense of walking in and then going out, doing the turnaround. That's one of my favorite techniques. Is you walk into a set, you start talking to them, and just as like it seems like you're about to leave, you start turning around on your shoulder, and then you just come right back into the conversation. It's like you do a little 360. I think it's just so much fun, and it's something that no one else like ever sees. Done a couple of these and such, and I know I didn't hook them properly, or I didn't have like a really good hook on one particular person in the group, and so it fell apart. And that was in front of a group of like guys who like like 3 guys, the regulars, and they know me and such. I wasn't embarrassed by it at all, actually. I was like, okay, that's awesome. Like I'm glad that I'm at the place where in front of 3 guys who I like look up to, if you will, or not necessarily only look up to, but like, yeah, I'd say look up to. I failed in front of them, and like it wasn't a big deal to me. I was so proud of that moment of like, okay, fuck it, it doesn't matter. And coming back to the whole idea of Arash mentioned this in mentorship, Diamond Mind, and I think you've mentioned this in um, Silent Flute in general. Is like coming back to a darker side, if you will, not being the guy who's always like super happy and like just trying to get attention from everyone in a positive way of like everyone's like, oh, this person's smiley and whatnot, but coming back to more of like a darker type vibe and just showing her that like you're not someone to fuck with, or showing people that you're not someone to fuck with at the onset. But then you come back to the, okay, I can, and then once you recognize them and you get into conversation, then you start opening up more. So it's being closed off at first, you know. But it's I'm learning, and I'm continuing to hone, like, when do you stay uh closed, where it's just like you're just kind of like a darker type mood, to open where you're like super animated and you go into the whole thing. It's like it's a very fine like tuner, you know, especially if you don't know the individuals, like at what point do you do this, and just honing this and such. But I continue to fail at this, you know. It's like I totally like there's probably multiple girls that I had the opportunity to even talk to, but I was just focusing on that. I was like focusing on just being like stone cold and like walking around and shit. And it was like, okay, like it's good for me because I have a very like vibrant personality, and I'm like I can go totally off the deep end, but it's just as important to have the other balance of it. So um it's incredible. So that's the social yoga aspect to it. I mean, to regular yoga, I mean, handstands, I'm working on my handstands right now, or headstands as well. Dude, it's incredible how many times I've failed at it. Absolutely incredible. And it's like I'm like a centimeter or like an inch away from being a totally perfect like upright headstand, where I'm like completely on the top of my head. Like I still feel it in my muscles and shoulders that I'm not completely up. So I'm working on that, and that's a fear, you know. It's like that is, you evolved, you know this. It's like there's no way, like that first time when you're inverting completely and there's no support or anything like that, is you're not used to it. It's not something that like our human bodies, like we're not used to being upside down. So it's incredible to have that experience, and to realize that that's my edge. That's my edge in life. And that women are attracted to men who like meet their edge. What does the edge mean? It's like a place where where the man is, he could fuck up. Like he could either grow, and this is an opportunity for him to skyrocket, or it's an opportunity to fucking plummet. And as you mentioned exactly, it's like, what is the mindset that this person, this man approaches it with? Is it a mindset of, oh shit, I'm gonna fuck up right here? Or is it a mindset of, I've already done this, it's not an issue? It's really, really important to be aware of it. And the second that you feel that sense of nervousness, whether it be in your stomach, in your chest, in your face, to become aware of it is incredibly important to be able to use that for a signal, like your body letting you know that you're going to meet your edge right now. How are you going to handle it? It's really, really interesting. So those are a couple things that kind of had come up to me in that little brief conversation. It seems like we have a comment. I don't know if we take it. Mercer Raw, IMC. What's up, Mercer Raw? I personally hate failing in front of people, but this is beginning to make me feel okay with failing. Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. If you want to be a master at anything, you need to be the person who's failed more than anyone else. Masters are the people who failed more than anyone else. That's no questions asked. That's definition of master. And so I want to fail in every single way possible so that I know how to do it right. You know, it's like if I can find all of the bad ways to do something, or all of the ways that don't work, that gets me closer to finding the way that does work. I can try to find the way that does work right off the bat, but I mean, come on, like this doesn't make the journey fun. And you take me out of that particular situation, I wouldn't be able to apply it to anything else. So
Yeah, and it doesn't really work like it just doesn't really work like that. Trying to find all the solutions before that's like, I mean, maybe in like chess it works like that, where because I mean it's a set game. The rules, the boundaries. Like the queen can't all of a sudden become the rook or whatever. Like it's so yeah, you can study that, but even there, you're only going to retain so much information about possible outcomes before you just got to practice. You got to play the game and then see the possible outcomes, see the combination, see how the other person responds, and this and that. I love the analogy that you're talking about with like handstand, headstand, finding the plumb line. You're unsure, are you going to fall this way or that? It reminds me a lot of being in the sweet spot with a girl or with a group when you're out in your social yoga. Like I am not a natural. I'm overcoming childhood and an adolescence and really early adulthood of patterns of my familiar experience was not what I'm seeking right now. Obviously, that's what a natural would be. A natural would be pursuing the familiar experiences of their life, and that happened to be going well. So for whatever reasons, that's how their life went, and so they're pursuing that. So I'm pursuing unfamiliarity, kind of like finding the plumb line on your head. And when you get into the plumb line on your head, you lose your bearings. You're like, am I falling this way? Am I falling that way? I don't know. And the first couple times you pull yourself out of the plumb line just to like jerk yourself so you can feel the weight somewhere, and then you fall. And then at some point you'll get the plumb line and you'll be okay staying there for a few moments, but then you'll start to talk to yourself and be like, oh, I'm getting it. And then you'll fall. And so getting there and then staying comfortable. And then you'll find all the little micro alignment things that, you stay there for 20, 30, 60 seconds, 2 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever. You'll find little crimps in your spine or in your hips or whatever that are, that could be a little, if I change the angle of my pelvis a little bit, then it's even easier. And so I see that parallel with the social practice. And, and I'm very fascinated. What I'm going to hand it back over to you with is this question, because, I see the truth in it. I think most people see the truth in it that, the master has failed more times than, the beginner has even tried. And when I look at like my skill with yoga, which is tremendous, I have tremendous skill with yoga. That doesn't mean I'm the bendiest person or the strongest person, but man, I understand what I am doing to my body from skin to bone, from skin to the core, from skin to self, all the way to the atomic self, all the way out to my hair follicles and my aura. Like I know a lot about what's going on. Maybe I don't know everything. I probably definitely don't know everything because I'm still learning, right? But I know a lot. But man, I was like, it's never been about failing or not. Like there was a why, like you were saying, I have this why that I am doing my yoga that is independent of how much I know about why is this happening or not, or what's the correct answer to how to do that posture, or what is the correct way. Everybody wants to know, like, what is the correct way to do this breathing technique or do this yoga sequence, or how do I do this or that? And that was never a question in my mind. The only thing that was in my mind was just do it. It was like Nike. I was like, just do it. Just do it. Just do your yoga practice. What yoga practice should I do? I don't know. Just do it. Figure it out. Go on YouTube. Like, that's how I approached it. And it's like, man, if I just approached my social yoga like this, but why I got into yoga was just, I found an experience that was so fulfilling, and it greatly replaced a prior experience that I was still chasing and hunting. So it created a new healthy pattern for what I had been doing. And it became a kind of a salvation, a way for me to find peace and solace. And so it continues to be this daily. If there's like an agitation or something, I have tools of yoga that I can access and bring about the peace or the state of mind that I want, the state of the physical being that I want, wellness and this and that. And so I'm searching now. Now you got me on this train of thought where I'm like, what is my why for going out and meeting people? What is my why for putting myself in social venues? What is my why for networking and connecting in a social context? Not going to like a yoga conference and networking in that way, but like, reaching my social tentacles out and connecting with as many people as possible. And in particular, the female energy is a big driver for this. And it's naturally in the male-female dynamic is going to go deeper into a intimacy relationship rather than me and my homeboys. And so my why, like, how did you find your why, or what advice could you give me or anybody really, but especially me? I'm trying to be selfish right here. If you were my life coach and I just paid you $100,000 and I'm like, man, Akash, I need a why. I don't know why I want to do this. I want to do it, but like, I don't know why. And it's like, and so I keep getting caught up in all the obstacles and the challenges because I don't have a why to focus on that's so much greater than all the obstacles. How can you help me? And I'll hand it over to you.
Yeah, I mean, I think you already paid me hundreds of thousands of dollars because I know your time is worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. So appreciate it right there already. But in all seriousness, I mean, finding your why, particularly for a man, this is the most important thing that you do in your life, is you find your why, or you find what is it that drives you. As a man who's spiritual, it's not the ego. It's the first thing you drop and let go of. It's your why isn't, oh, because I like this, or because it makes me feel good, or because it's like something having to do with the I or the self. Does not have to do with that. As a man, no. A why is something that's bigger than who you are, and a recognition of what does your spirit self want to accomplish in this life and in this world. So that's where you start. We have natural aptitudes for places of things that we enjoy doing. So for both of us, it's yoga. What's our why for yoga? For me, my why for yoga is to inspire. And it's not only to inspire myself, I mean, because at the end of the day, it's important to inspire the self, but it's to inspire my community around me. It's to inspire other men to do yoga and learn this, particularly this art that I think is absolutely beautiful, and it's a lost art in many ways in the West, and we're bringing it to the West and continuing to build it out here. But it's to inspire, is to really to show others, like, look, you have the opportunity to live the life of your dreams. It's at your fingertips. Exactly, can happen any moment you want it to. Become aware of it. Like, what does that lifestyle look like? You know, coming back to the why of like finding it is, you continue to understand the feelings within your body as you perform whatever your art or your practice or your discipline is. That's a big sign as to what your why is. So in yoga, for example, one of the feelings that I get during the practice itself is reconnecting with my breath and my body. I literally sink down more into my body. I feel my beingness go from my head into my body more. So I'll feel my heart a little bit more, and I'll feel different emotions there. I'll feel my stomach. I'll feel my toes a little bit better. Like, everything is just a lot. The feelings are so much more crisper, and that's an incredible experience to me. So becoming aware of these feelings within yourself gives you hints. Then you start to recognize that the feelings within your body are telling you different things about the emotions that are going on with you at the time as well. So a couple things, I guess, here, and this is something maybe I can dive into this week in a bit more detail on the private group of how does one find their why, and what does that mean in many ways. But these are a couple just little snippets of things that I've found, and it's a question that you need to sit down with. This is, as I mentioned, this is the most important question for you as a man, is understanding your why. If you can communicate your why to a woman, most attractive thing in the world. Honestly, tell me how many guys know their purpose in life.
Oh, you're frozen on Zoom. Is anybody else? Is it me? Oh, it's my Wi-Fi. Oh, shoot. 1 second.
The boss. So
Yes,
true.
we're still on. All right. Man, I missed some of that. But while you were talking, I had this great idea. I had mentioned to you the other day, I was like, what is our donation lecture going to be on in Enlightened Masculinity? Because we didn't end up doing it, and I've given 2 monthly sanghas in the science of spiritual growth, and they've been tremendously successful. I mean, people have really messaged me afterwards like, that was really helpful, this and that. I didn't know what we were going to talk about in Enlightened Masculinity. And, these two things came to mind. The one is like I just asked you about, like finding your why. Methods to find your why, techniques, progressions, encouragement, questions to ask yourself to get to that why, or just what's the process. The one that I feel very competent at helping, I think this would be valuable to people, would be setting an intention, setting intent. And so I'm wondering if in the Enlightened Masculinity group, I mean, maybe we'll do a poll. I think we have 40 people in the group right now or something like that. If this would be something they would be interested in like a 1 hour joint lecture with Akash and I on finding your why and setting your intentions.
I'm about it completely. I think it's incredible, and it's important. This is so important for anyone. So important. The question coming in from Saul. I've had a problem all my life displaying love and trust in the universe. I'm bound by certain ideas, my studying, and reflections of a vague past self. Has wisdom placed you ahead of consciously running this program, aka the Matrix? Interesting.
That's quite a question.
Yeah. So I guess there's a lot in here for sure. The first question I would have is, why do you think you've had a problem displaying love? Where does that come from? And trust. I guess the question there is why, or what do you mean by that exactly? What does trust mean to you in this, and what does displaying love mean to you? The way you phrase things, I'm bound by certain ideas. By saying that, it first off, incredible, because by voicing things, you let them go. The things that you want to keep, that you hold on and hold internal and don't say, gives you power. So by not voicing something, you actually lose. By voicing something, you let it go, but by keeping it to yourself, you contain it and keep it within. And so that's why we'll see with emotions that if you don't talk about your emotions, you're just all bundled up and then you get all rigid. There's certain things you do want to keep to yourself, though. Really, really important. There's certain things that you only know, and you share with no one. There are other things that you let them go, and it's not a big deal. Has this wisdom placed you ahead of consciously running the program? Again, wisdom. I would be curious as to what you mean by wisdom. I mean, my definition of wisdom is simply applied knowledge, and that obviously comes from experience. So, yeah, there's a lot in this question in terms of the way it's structured, and it's interesting seeing your mindset and where you are in this. I can definitely empathize in the sense of the ideas of displaying love and trust. Yeah, I think that's something everyone can empathize with, in the sense of not knowing in the next moment is something good, or like quote unquote good or bad, going to happen. But again, when you let go of these ideas of that something I mentioned yesterday, but this is something that I hold of deep value, this saying: the way someone acts or responds to you says nothing about you and everything about them. And so when you display love to someone, and if they don't accept it, it says everything about the way they receive love, or the way they interact with love, or trust. So don't allow, or become more aware of this concept of that around you, you're simply a mirror for others. You're not it's not about you. It's about the other. In the conversation and the communication, it's not about you. It's seeing where is the other, and how are you reflecting to them? How can you reflect to them in a more clear way, in a more aware way? So I hope that's helpful. On becoming living, on becoming living the example of the world I'd like to live in and help many people in all aspects of life. That's your why. I like that. I really do like that. So it's so important, as I mentioned, to just really build that out and become more aware of it and come back to this, because that's where the true power of masculinity comes from, is coming back to your why and coming back to, this is my mission, and nothing comes between me and my mission. Nothing. No girl, no no friends, nothing, because that is a contract between you and yourself. And you let anything go in between you two, between you and your purpose, you're done, dude. That means that it's not there. You can't derive power from that. You can't go out in the world and be respected by others, because you don't respect yourself, you know? So it's really, really important to understand why, what your why is, and reconnect to that. And I think, as Yogi Chris mentioned, we can delve into this deeper for sure, in terms of intention and setting and finding your why. So Yogi Chris, I turn it back over to you. I think we're having some issues on the Instagram, it seems like.
Yeah, I don't know. I see you're paused. Am I paused on your side, or what happened?
It told me I'm done, so I'm gonna jump back on. It's requesting.
Right.
My iPad's like just about dying too, so I might be close to the end of the Instagram. But
yeah, cool. Well, I see you got a lot of value from Akash's answer, so I don't want to pollute it at all. Let's see, Dr. Ace, I've been able to follow you both on Zoom with interruptions. Okay, cool. So, we'll wrap it up. My whole method, my whole concept around this is making myself more adaptable and then gaining references for how I want to be, so that I can morph into how I want to be. Making my inside system or program more flexible. Like, it's not so set. It's only set as much as I determine it's set. And it will change when I determine that I want it to change. And obstacles, as they come up, then I handle those obstacles. But if they don't come up, then they don't come up. A lot of obstacles, I think, are just imagined, like, what if an obstacle comes up, kind of obstacle, which is an obstacle in itself. It's doubt. But focusing more on intention, outcome, where you want to go with it. And I think why is a huge driver of this. So my whole approach to life in the last 4 years, since I've really found AZD, has been make my body more of an instrument for my will, make it a more adaptable and a more accurate expression of my will, of what I want to manifest in the world. Like that whole Gandhi saying, be the change you wish to see in the world, be the outcome, be your outcome. And so, like a shapeshifter, that lizard people or whatever that Yuri tells me about, being a shapeshifter into the person that you want to be, letting go of who you were and becoming who you want to be. And there apparently, like in all the things that we've talked about today, there's a progression that can make it more attainable. You can take steps rather than trying to skyrocket 1,000 feet up. You can just walk 1,000 steps. And so there are steps to transforming the body, steps to transforming the nervous system, steps to transforming the brain, and ultimately steps to transforming the mind. And this is the Hatha yoga progression. This is what physical yoga is. This is what I teach in the Silent Flute. How do you start from the most tangible, basic, meaty substance, which is like your body, and access your mind through the tissues that you see? You have these patterns that are holding you in a certain behavior, and if I can change this body, my mind is just a step away. So join the Silent Flute, everyone. That's how I highly recommend joining the Silent Flute. Also, we have this Enlightened Masculinity Facebook group where we'll be giving a donation sangha. I don't know that I would call it a sangha, but we'll give a donation talk here coming up after we do the poll and get some feedback from the 40 members on if this is something they'd like to have more outcomes on. And other than that, if you're catching the recording, you see all the contact us. If you're catching us on iTunes or any of the podcasting platforms, please leave comments, leave your review so we can see how our audience is processing this, and it also helps us show up in search results. We're looking to expand this information in honor of our teachers and in honor of this lineage to the world. This we consider very valuable, which is why we give 2 hours of our time every weekend, plus the time it takes to post, set up, all that stuff. We're doing it, or it's part of our why. So I'll hand it over to Akash for any closing words.
Yes, Yogi Chris, thank you so much again, as always. I mean, I just genuinely appreciate you putting this together in the sense of putting the whole podcast together, bringing all the pieces together. And as a piece, I remember the first time that you had asked us to like do a podcast together, and I was thinking through it, and the other day, and I was amazed at how it felt, the way that you teach. And this is like as a personal experience, and as a, you can clip this, and this is my like, you're an incredible teacher, is that the way you teach is in such a way that it feels like you're just giving a natural extension of like yourself, and in a way that's, I was talking about this to Yuri the other day, was that I feel like you're setting me up for success in a way that's just, it's incredible. Like, you're teaching me the tools, exactly what I need in order to continue forward on whatever my path may be. And, but in a way that's so like there's no expectation of, like, of anything coming from this. The way you, and this is something I think is incredibly important from a teacher, is that the teacher expects nothing from you. They simply give the teachings, and whatever you may give back as a result of the teachings that you've like received is how you give back. I mean, I have a personal belief that giving should only come from a deep place within, without any expectation. So I don't really believe in the whole transaction thing so much. I mean, it's kind of it's a thing of the modern world, but it's not like, it doesn't align with me in terms of like true spirit. I know I got off on a tangent, but I really just genuinely wanted to say thank you so much for really putting all of this together, and teaching me along this path, this way. Lastly, check out the silent flute. I am an apprentice under Yogi Chris, because I see the value this man has to offer, and the story of him starting by self-study is incredible. Getting up, like doing yoga on your own and figuring it out on your own, is no joke. And to have the willpower to continue forward on something like that and keep going at it without any teacher, that's something. Join the Enlightened Masculinity podcast and subscribe to our podcast. So check out the upcoming events that we will be having ongoing. And I think we leave it at this, Yogi Chris.
Absolutely. Thank you for your kind words. And we will see you next Saturday and Sunday at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard for, I feel like a television commercial, at 12 p.m. Eastern Time for Enlightened Masculinity podcast. Namaste. Thank you, Akai.